common question since the movies first came out 20 years ago is if any other character was a previous one. So quickly, let's go through a few theories of how there might have been some other ones. For example, Seraph. Welcome to Jam Punch, my name is George. Firstly, was Seraph a former One? A few kind of minor things support this really. So, at the end of the Matrix Revolutions, Neo's body is taken away by the machines. Now when this happens, we see their view of Neo, we see all the golden light. That is the light coming from the source. Now to the machines, the source is like, their heaven, it's their everything, it's their connection to each other. To us, it's basically a giant Wi-Fi connection. So we're seeing these Wi-Fi waves all surrounding Neo, and they form the shape of wings. Now if we look at Seraph and his bio, he was a former angel with wings. That's what the name Seraph means, it's Seraphim. Seraphim means angel back in biblical terms. He was an agent, in a way, of the Paradise Matrix, that's why he was an angel. Now the theory here is that Neo also is turning into an angel, just like Seraph is. Meaning Seraph maybe was a One in the past as well. But of course that's not a very strong piece of evidence. So the next point is that Seraph says in The Matrix Reloaded, you do not truly know someone until you fight them. Now here, consider this, that Neo is the guy. He is the one who can defeat any human because he's programmed that way, he can defeat any agent because he's programmed that way, and he can defeat any program because he's programmed that way. Until Seraph. Seraph is the one guy who Neo really is struggling to defeat. Why is that? Because Seraph might have been a former One. And one more thing is that Seraph says to Smith in The Matrix Revolutions, I have beaten you before. Now that's such a kind of minor line that we don't really think about, but think about it now. I have beaten you before? No one can defeat agents apart from the One. Okay, now wiping all of that away, here are the reasons why Seraph was not a former One. So we go back to when he was the guardian of the original operating system, that's the Merovingian, back in the Paradise Matrix. Back then, there was no One. Back then, the humans didn't have a choice. Remember, that's what Smith says, that entire crops were lost because humans couldn't, work out the idea of just paradise for paradise's sake. So because of that lack of choice, there was no need for a One. So yes, while there was that theory that Seraph might have been a One, it's not a very good theory, and all signs point to the fact that he was not a One. Next we've got to consider, was the Merovingian a One in the past? Now there's not much to support this theory other than the fact that the Merovingian is so powerful within the Matrix, and he's got this gang of exiles underneath him, and the fact that Persephone says to Neo, he used to be just like you, which makes it sound like she's saying that the Merovingian used to be just like Neo, used to be a One. But that's really it. The kind of counterpoints to the Merovingian being the One are as follows. So one of them I already said, that back in the time when the Merovingian was first created, there wasn't a need for a One, because it was the Paradise Matrix and the Nightmare Matrix, which is when humans didn't have a choice. And this is supported again by the fact that the Oracle says he's one of the oldest of us, when referring to the Merovingian, and this us is referring to programs, not humans. This is further supported by the fact that in The Matrix Online, Michael Karl Popper maintains a blog that's dedicated to kind of overseeing and discussing Kryptos, which is one of his character enemies. And in the blog, he has a piece saying that the Merovingian was an operating system, leaving no room to kind of question that. So it's just basically, he was not the One, he was the operating system of the first couple Matrixes. And finally, one of the main points that counters the Merovingian being the One is the Keymaker says in Enter the Matrix, I have been held captive in a chateau in the mountains by an exile named the Merovingian. Now the One can't be an exile because the One is a human. True, the One is a kind of mixture of human and program, but basically the One will always be a human. That's the whole point. Now Raven, Underwell, Spoonboy, Trinity, even this guy, they all have one thing in common, and it's their bloody epic outfits. And costumes like these are what you can expect to see at Project Matriculated, a Matrix-themed cosplay event with a live DJ taking place on the 22nd of December in Riverdale, New Jersey. The wonderful Neo Matrixology has arranged this awesome event that I really wish I could attend myself, but international travel is a little difficult right now, as you can imagine. Matrix cosplay is not required, but it is strongly encouraged because a $250 cash prize will be awarded for the best Matrix-themed cosplay. However, the best part is that if you purchase your ticket using the promo code JAMPUNCH1, you'll receive a 15% discount. That's JAMPUNCH1. More details are on screen and in the description box below, and please contact Neo Matrixology for any questions. So that leads on to the next point of one that people don't often consider, and that is the character Phoebe in the comic King of Never Return. She is a red pill who has hijacked a hovercraft, and she uses her hovercraft skills and her crew just to simply play around with training missions. They load training missions into their computer and just kind of play around trying to evade agents, shooting them in helicopters, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Which, let's be honest, if we were all red pills, we'd all do that ourselves, just play around with the training missions. But a key moment in this story happens right at the end. So she's being hunted by other hovercrafts because she has stolen one of the hovercrafts. So throughout the story she's narrating, she's talking in the past tense. Then at the end, her hovercraft gets destroyed by another hovercraft. And she says how we could show them the results of those lessons, but we can't, because we're dead. Now, of course, that might seem like just a literary kind of flair to go, oh yeah, the main character's dead, but they're talking in the past tense just because that fits the story. No, that doesn't happen in The Matrix. There are no kind of strange literary flares that happen for no reason. Every piece of dialogue is there for a reason. So if we have this character who is dead and talking in the past tense, that can only mean that she has the power to basically revive herself. She has the power to die, like what Neo did twice, and then revive herself. Also, there's the fact that in her story, she's kind of whining about she hates waiting for the one to appear. So the implication being is that she is the one. She is the one who just doesn't believe in herself yet, so she thinks she's waiting around for someone else. No, she's the one who has just died and can now revive herself. So those signs point to Phoebe being a one in a previous Matrix. Now here's a crazy idea of what a different one could be, and that is the combination of Neo and Smith together. They're yin and yang, they form one, rather than one versus the enemy. We consider the fact that the One would be able to change whatever he wanted, remake the Matrix as he saw fit, as the prophecy says. Now Neo can't do that by himself. Even after leaving the architect's room, he can't just, create a mountain or a river and create all kinds of crazy things on the earth as he wanted. But it seems that Smith can, because Smith can change the weather. The Oracle also prophesied that his return would kind of hail the destruction of the Matrix. Well, Neo can't really destroy the Matrix by himself, but Smith can. We also know that the Oracle says, you can save Zion if you reach the source, to Neo. Well, Neo does reach the source, but also so does Smith. Smith and Neo both reach the source at the very end, when Neo allows that connection to take place through him, from Deus Ex Machina to Smith. So technically they both reach the source to save Zion. And finally there's the one last point where very, very obviously the Oracle says, he is you, when talking to Neo about Smith. But the massive kind of thorn in the side of this theory that Neo Smith is the one is that the Oracle's prophecy would be exactly the same level of truth whether it was just Neo or Neo and Smith. So there's no real reason to point at being Neo Smith as the one. The prophecy works with Neo being the one anyway. Now looking ahead, there is a theory that says Sati could be the next one. In Enter the Matrix, the Oracle says, I believe the child is important. She will change both your world and our world forever. So this obviously suggests that Sati could be the next one. She could be the one to reshape the world. But there are a few reasons to why this is quite unlikely. One is that Sati's already around when Neo's around. The whole point of the One is that they happen in a cycle, it's every 100 years, whereas here Neo is about 30 years old at the end of the 100-year cycle, and there's Sati. She's 10 or something, and she's already around. We don't need two ones together at the same time. And secondly, Sati is not a human, she's a program. As Ramachandra says, Sati is his daughter. The whole point in The One is that The One is a human. The One is the human who can make the very human choice to sacrifice Zion every 100 years. Thank you for watching that, everybody. If it was a help to you and you really liked learning about the Matrix lore, then please subscribe to Jam Punch and I'll be releasing a brand new Matrix Explained video every single week. My name is George, this is Jam Punch, and I'll see you next time.